Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Virginia, and today's video is a fun one because it's a little bit different than my usual videos. Today I was inspired by items that I found on Amazon for a much higher price tag, so I decided to recreate them using mostly Dollar Tree supplies. First up, we have a decorative cutting board. Here's what you'll need if you want to recreate it using Dollar Tree items. Decorative cutting boards have been all the rage lately, and I've seen them all over Instagram, Pinterest, and Etsy. I really liked the way that they looked, but especially from perusing on Amazon, they are super expensive. Even the ones on Etsy, which used Dollar Tree supplies, were almost $20. I looked at Amazon, got some inspiration on their cutting boards as well as Pinterest and Etsy, and kind of went from there knowing that I was going to use this Dollar Tree cutting board that I got during the Easter season, but kind of change it to be a little bit more spring related and even something that I can leave up all summer long. So I did take that front section off of the cutting board. Be careful because it has those thumbtacks in it, but other than that, it came up really easily. And then I took a section of some burlap fabric that I have, and I'm going to be creating a pocket using this, but instead of sewing, I'm just going to use hot glue. I took my chalk pen and did a rough outline of how I wanted the size of the pocket to be, and then I just cut it out using a pair of scissors. Before moving on to adding the pocket, I did want a tiny embellishment on the handle. I didn't want a completely jute covered handle, but I did wrap just a little bit of it, probably about an inch, in some jute to kind of give that rustic farmhouse touch. And now I am adhering our burlap pocket onto our cutting board, and I hot glued the bottom sections and then about halfway up the sides. And when I was halfway up the sides, I did a check to make sure that I was still going to be able to tuck some florals in there. And then once I figured out that I would have enough room, I went ahead and glue down the rest of the sides as well as folding over the top section, and basically that just gave a little hem to it. I thought it was a cute detail, and I didn't love the unfinished edges of the burlap. It was super rustic farmhouse, and I was going for mostly farmhouse, maybe just a touch of rustic. So to kind of cover up those rough edges of the burlap, I had this really nice delicate lace ribbon that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. So I did that on the sides as well as the bottom. And just to reuse some of our supplies, I pulled the thumbtacks that were originally on the sign and placed those in the two bottom corners of our pocket. I thought it was a really nice touch, and then that way I didn't have to worry about recycling the pins. I was using them for a project right then and there. The next step, these were probably my favorite florals. I've used them so much. I bought a lot of them at the Dollar Tree. They're gorgeous lavender picks with some lamb's ear, and it just fit perfectly. And I've been a big fan of the purples for this spring. So I tucked those into the burlap pocket. And then the last few steps were just adding those additional touches and embellishments. I took a little bit of the beaded garland from the Dollar Tree and draped that across the top of our pocket. Then I made a bow out of some raffia. And I also have these wood cutouts of different insects. I have dragonflies, bumblebees, and I believe a ladybug. And I picked them up last year. They do have them again this summer, but I wasn't really using them that much last year. I think I made one bumblebee DIY with them. So I thought adding on this dragonfly was the perfect way to use it and brought a really sweet spring touch. This next DIY is probably my favorite in the whole video. I love fresh florals, but they can be pretty expensive. Here's what you'll need to make this quick and cheap Amazon duplicate. As I already mentioned, this DIY is super easy and quick to do. It almost felt silly to put it in this video, but I think it came out so beautiful, so I had to include it. Also, when I looked on Amazon, the prices were kind of crazy, $23.99. Yes, you get 3 bundles, but I am going to make a bundle here for only $3, so I think it's a bargain. And actually, this craft paper I already had. It is from the Dollar Tree. I get it in a huge roll for only $1. And then I got these 2 flower picks. One is lavender and one, I forget what it was called, but it looked a lot like lavender to me. So I just stuck them together. They had a little bit varying shades of purple, so I thought the 2 different shades would look really pretty. I cut out my craft paper in kind of a rectangular shape. I just cut it around the florals, and then it's really easy. You fold one side over, fold the other side, and it creates this cone shape. Once the sides were folded over and I had that cone shape, I kind of just pinched it right at the bottom section. That is where I'm going to be putting my ribbon. But before I put the ribbon on, I first took a rubber band. The ribbons are really just going to be decorative. I don't want to tie it too tight. So the rubber band is really going to be what holds all of this together. And after I had tied the rubber band around, I kind of fluffed back out the craft paper because it had a lot of crinkles in it. The ribbon will hide some of the crinkles, but yeah, I was just kind of repositioning my floral picks and adjusting the craft paper so it wasn't quite as crunchy and wrinkly. Then I grabbed some of this ribbon. I love it. It's a linen ribbon, and I thought this would go really pretty with the whole homemade kind of vibe. There's a lot of frays off this ribbon, so I liked the linen fabric material, and I just really casually tied it in a knot and just had the lengths hanging. I didn't make a bow or anything. This next step is really going a step further. I decided to make a label for my lavender. I like using these 2 types of sticker paper. One is a glossy sticker paper from the brand Nito, and the other one, I forget the brands, but I will leave both links down below. They're both from Amazon, and they are my favorite sticker paper. I have a pretty cheap printer. I think it was like $50 off of Walmart. So both of these papers go through really nicely and don't jam. Kind of with cheaper printers, a lot of stuff will jam in it. I have some vinyl printing paper and that always jams, but this stuff works great. I just made my own sticker. It said Lavender Farms and a little piece of lavender on it. I just printed that out on my printer and sticker paper and then placed that onto my lavender cone, and I thought it added a really cute homemade touch. The next DIY, I saw a version on Amazon selling for much more, and it is a nod to one of my favorite shows, so I had to recreate it. Here are the supplies you need if you want to as well. I saw a rose apothecary planter selling for $18 on Amazon, and I knew that I could make just as cute of a version using Dollar Tree items. I picked up one of the clay pots from the Dollar Tree. This I would say is a medium-sized one, and it actually came in a set of 2, so that's always a good bargain when you can get a double. So all that I did was try to match it to the Amazon one. Now the Amazon one is going to be more of a glossy kind of clay jar, but I tried my best to recreate it. I did use chalk paint, which is notoriously pretty matte, but I will fix that. Then I picked out this Rose Apothecary vinyl decal using my Cricut. If you don't have a Cricut, no problem. There are tons of versions of this online. Just put into Google Images, Rose Apothecary. You can print it out and Mod Podge it on. I am taking a glossy Mod Podge because that's how the Amazon version was. And again, like I said, I used chalk paint, so it was pretty matte. And the extra benefit of this is if you end up printing out your Rose Apothecary label, the Mod Podge will adhere it perfectly onto the clay pot. I thought Dollar Tree was extra amazing this year with their spring florals, so I am using all Dollar Tree floral picks. I placed a piece of floral foam down into the center of the clay jar, and then I'm just taking various purple floral picks and placing them in, mostly lavender. This would have been amazing if I had roses to go in the Rose Apothecary jar, but alas, I did not, so I went with my favorite flower and just chose all of these really pretty lavender picks. I like the pop of color it adds to our black and white DIY. This next one is pretty simple, but when you see what Amazon was charging for it, you'll be happy I used Dollar Tree supplies. We are taking it back to the school days when you had to cover your books with a brown paper bag. I am taking 3 books that I have just had. This is actually a really good one. I read it recently, so if you're looking for a mythology kind of book read, go for it. Amazon was charging almost $30 for a similar book stack, and I thought that was outrageous because it is so simple to make. You guys probably already know how to cover books, again, probably from your school days, but this is a really quick way. It's not exactly the best way for it to last a super long time, so you might have a better way of actually covering them. But for this project, they were not going to be going in and out of backpacks, so I didn't have to be too precise. I'm just folding down the top and the bottom so that it fits the book, folding the front over, making a crease, and then I will fold back the front cover and slip that into the nook that has been created by all of the folds. If you need a more in-depth tutorial, there are tons on YouTube, but I figured this was fairly self-explanatory / most of you probably had experience in this, so I kind of sped through the book covering portion of this DIY. Amazon's book stack was white with some brown distressing, but I'm going to be doing the opposite. I have brown craft paper, and then I grabbed some white chalk paint and a fluffy paintbrush, and I am just distressing all over the craft paper. You could also use white paper and distress it brown, kind of like Amazon did, but this is what I had on hand, so I was making it easy for myself. You can write Home Sweet Home using vinyl like me, you can use a marker, or you can use some rub-on transfers from the Dollar Tree. Let me know in the comments down below how you think I did recreating these Amazon products. Or let me know in the comments down below what you have recreated recently. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.